Good morning, 8th grade. It is Tuesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Today we're going to start talking about nonfiction text features using the articles that I sent home yesterday. So the two we're going to look at today are descriptive writing and sequential or chronological. So the next page we're going to look at are the different types of nonfiction text features, how you know if an author is using one or not, and then we're going to analyze two of the articles that I sent home. On this chart, you're going to see the 5 different types of nonfiction text features, starting with description, then sequence and chronological, followed by compare contrast, cause and effect, and then problem solution. For each of these structures, you're going to see the rules that authors might follow, and then some of the signal or keywords that you're going to look for in the text to decide whether or not the author is writing using a structure. The first structure we're going to look at is description. The author describes the topic by listing characteristics, features, attributes, and examples. For example, if we're going to describe Mrs. Rich, you might say Mrs. Rich is really unusual. For example, she wears shiny clogs, her hair is seldom brushed, but she really loves books. So that's why Mrs. Rich is really unusual. So you're going to be looking for signal words such as, including, for instance, for example, is like, and to illustrate. So when you're looking at a descriptive paragraph, you really want to key in on those words. The second structure we're going to look at today is sequence or chronological. The author lists items or events in numerical or chronological order, and I spelled that word wrong. It can be explicit or implicit, which means it can be right out there or you have to figure it out. Authors often use diagrams and visuals. Order does matter. So words that you might see in a sequential or chronological writing piece would be first, second, third, later, then, after, since, next, before, after, previously. It might also use bullets or numbered steps or dates. Let's take a look at the third paragraph in Feudalism Comes to Europe. In this paragraph, the vassal, the one that wanted help, came to the lord, the one who could give the help, and in return for protection, food, and clothing, the vassals would be the lord's servant for the rest of his life. The nobles were vassals of the king, the serf was vassal to the nobleman. The king had authority over the nobles but could not give orders to the serf. The exception to that rule was in England. The land the noble received from the king was called a fief. In this paragraph, the author is describing, giving examples, giving lists. So, for example, the vassal is the one that wanted help. The lord is the one who could give the help. And what did they get in return? Protection, food, and clothing. The vassal is the lord's servant for the rest of his life. The nobles were vassals of the king. The serf was vassal to the nobleman. These are all characteristics or attributes for each of these words in bold print. So this short paragraph is an example of a description. In this short review of the Black Death, you're going to be noticing there's a lot of dates. So, for example, the Black Death or the Black Plague was a pandemic that killed millions of people during the Middle Ages. A pandemic is when infectious disease spreads over a large part of the world. We know about that. The Black Death first showed up in China in 1333, so there's a date to pay attention to, where it killed 5 million people in the Hubei province alone. That was just the beginning. Traders and soldiers carried the disease along the Silk Road, a trading route that stretched from China all the way to the Middle East. In October of 1347, a fleet of plague-infested merchant ships landed in Messina, Italy. After that, the Black Death spread rapidly throughout Europe. In just 4 years, the disease killed somewhere between 1/3 and 2/3 of everyone living in Europe, but that wasn't the end of it. Smaller outbreaks of the Black Plague reoccurred for centuries. So in this paragraph, in this short writing, you're seeing dates, you're seeing things in the beginning, after that, in just 4 years, reoccurred for centuries. So you can see that this Black Plague reading really does it in sequential or chronological order, when it started and how long it continued. So this is an example of chronological or sequence. So as you're reading your articles from Brain Pop or the feudalism article, start looking for some of those sequence words. Tomorrow we'll take a look at compare and contrast and cause and effect, and hopefully I'll have a few more articles for you to take a look at. And that's my dog barking.